What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. I'm going to break down when Jerome Powell's speech is going to be tomorrow, what's happening with President Trump and his spending bill, and what you should be watching for as time goes on these charts. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. And deposit $5,000 and you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. The offer ends at the end of July, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So looking at SPY, as you can tell, we're making higher highs and higher lows, at least so far. And overall, we're doing a very, very good job at holding up. But if you zoom in a bit more, what you'll see for the last couple of days is that every time SPY is dipping, we just get bought back up. So look at what happened last week on Thursday. We ended up seeing SPY getting bought back up. On Friday, we pumped a bit and then we dipped only to get bought back up again from this low at 610. We made a new high and then made another higher low again today. Very close to the level we called out. We did call out how SPY may test like near 617 or so, maybe a little bit below that before we saw some buyers defend. And we came very close to that 620 area. So for now, SPY is still breaking the highs. Even at the end of the day today, we saw a new high on SPY, which goes to show that this is continuing to push very, very nicely. Same thing with the QQQ, almost an identical pattern. It's continuing to make higher highs and higher lows, and we remain bullish for now. Now, of course, the bullish move is not going to last forever because I am seeing that there is decent volume that's still around. But the thing is that SPY is hitting tougher resistance and it's getting harder to climb higher and higher. So, yes, we could climb higher, but we're not just going to rocket like 1, 2, 3% to the upside instantly. It's going to take a while to slowly stair step our way up for now. And we need another catalyst to really see more volatility. There's a lot of chop still in this market, but we are still slowly uptrending, at least for the time being. So I'm going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very big day since we have a lot of data coming out and Jerome Powell's speech. And then I'll break down more details about these charts. Keep in mind that today we saw some interesting volatility when the Chicago PMI came out. So this data is important. Tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. So happy July. It's almost time for July again. Also, the year is like halfway done, so time is really flying. At 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the big guy, Jerome Powell, is going to be giving a speech. When he speaks, he does sometimes cause really, really high volatility. But as of recent, he's been just saying the same thing over and over again to the point where it's not really causing as much as it typically does. So with him, you never know what's going to happen. Could he pump the market? Is he going to dump the markets? It all depends. But I just want to say that Jerome Powell has been saying the same things about how he's waiting to see what happens with inflationary data. There could be a surge in inflation in the summertime. So we've just entered the summer. We could be looking for higher inflationary numbers. And the Fed, whether we see more cuts or not, depends on these numbers as well. So he's going to likely say the same things over and over again. The economy is doing quite well. So, of course, we could handle higher rates for longer. As of right now, he's saying that. So I do expect him to say some similar things, almost the same things as before. Then at 9:45 a.m., we have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI. And at 10 a.m., we have the ISM Manufacturing PMI and then the JOLTS Job Openings Report. So lots of manufacturing numbers. Tomorrow, we have the manufacturing prices and new orders. Prices will give us some inflationary data. And then new orders typically causes more volatility since it tells us about how demand is looking, about these supply chains. So I do expect a lot of volatility tomorrow between 9:30 and then 10 a.m. I do expect a lot of volatility, actually. I think that we might see a big move once we get these manufacturing numbers. And also, if Jerome Powell says anything significant that could cause some volatility. So you have to be ready and safe and prepared for anything just to be safe. Okay, so that's what's happening for tomorrow. High volatility the first hour of the day. And then I also want to add that President Trump is very angry with Jerome Powell. He called him names again, called him stupid, and said a lot of different things about him, which we've already talked about on this channel. But I just want to say that President Trump actually sent Jerome Powell a letter directly, and he's demanding lower interest rates as soon as possible. Now, as you already probably know, Jerome Powell's not going to listen to what President Trump says just like that. And just like start making changes based off that. He's going to listen to President Trump, but he's not going to be making those changes just based off what he says, right? So Jerome Powell is going to keep rates as is until we see what happens with inflationary numbers. Jerome Powell said when he was, being interrogated by Congress that because of these tariffs and the risks we're seeing from their assessment of higher inflation, that the Fed can't really do much. They have to wait and see what happens with this data, because in case we do get a big surge in inflation again, they have to continue to keep rates higher for longer, right? Regardless of what the effect is going to be. Now, if we end up seeing just a very teeny tiny amount of higher inflation and then we just see inflation end up just dropping again, of course the Fed could be incentivized to cut more. Right now we have some data coming out from the Atlanta Fed, who think that we're going to get 3 cuts this year. Now, we only have 4 FOMC meetings left for the year. We have July, September, October, and December. And as of right now, July will most likely, the Fed's going to likely keep rates the same according to what we're pricing in. We don't know, though. It also depends on the inflationary numbers. But as of right now, we're going to likely see another, pause. We're going to keep everything the same again in July. But then if we see a big drop in inflation, if things are still looking good through the summer, then I think we could get a cut in September and maybe start to get some cuts down the line. The Fed's expecting 2 cuts this year, maybe even 3, according to other Fed officials. So we'll see about that. But for now, the market's pricing in no cut for July yet until we see some new updates. Besides that, for earnings, there's nothing too significant coming out for the week, as we have the 4th of July this week. The stock market is going to be closed on Friday for equities and bonds. And then for the fear and greed index, right now, there's a lot of greed in the markets. We're not at extreme greed just yet. So there's still some room for the market to go higher. Momentum's now at greed. There's no more, fear. We're more greedy for the time being. There's a lot of bullish sentiment. The put to call option ratio is dumping to extreme greed. This is when we typically start to form tops. So the market could be in a topping process. We just don't have confirmation of that yet. And the VIX is very neutral, once again hitting extreme levels. So for now, there's lots of greed. What's helping the market push? We had a vote-orama going on, at least within Congress, right? The Senate are still continuing to, argue out what's happening with these amendments of President Trump's spending bill. And there's a lot of debates going on about the specific details. Keep in mind that the reason why the bill is so bullish and the reason the market's pushing is because there's been a lot of progress, right? The Senates are continuing to debate. They could eventually pass this to the House very soon, but the ultimate goal is to pass everything by July 4th. That's what President Trump said he wants. They want to pass the bill by July 4th. That's what President Trump says he wants from the Republicans. And obviously, if they delay too much, if they keep voting no, it could affect their careers. It could affect them in a lot of different ways. So they are trying to scramble and get this together and passed by July 4th. That's what the goal is going to be. So with that being said, if the bill does pass, it's going to, help businesses to some extent with tax cuts, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of arguments to be made. It's going to be increasing our overall federal deficits, and that's, what gives it a lot of criticism. So there's good and bad things that'll come from it in different ways, depending on how you want to look at this. But then at the same time, for the overall stock market, from a finance perspective, the short term would be very bullish because this bill would start to inject more money into stocks, into bonds, and we're going to be looking for a very, very big move. And then on top of that, it's going to also help businesses to some extent. That could also help the markets. So with what we're seeing, this would be very, very bullish. I do expect a big move to the upside if it does pass, unless this is like a buy the rumor, sell the news event, and we just kind of push approaching the bill's passing. It depends on a lot of factors, of course. Elon Musk has come out and he's actually said that he's not really too happy with the way at which things are going. He's mentioned that he's not really happy with it and that it's going to be hurting the US as a whole. It's going to be hurting jobs and such, according to Elon Musk. So, of course, he has a different view, but we've been hearing him talking a lot about this. It's making a lot of news. So we'll see how it goes. But nonetheless, if this bill does pass, it's going to be bullish for stocks. Not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's how this market's going to respond. Now, more news has come out involving India. So there's some roadblocks that are being hit right now over disagreements on import duties when it comes to auto components, steel, and farm goods ahead of the July 9th deadline for President Trump's tariffs. We'll have to see what happens with India. President Trump is saying there's going to be some good deals coming. We'll have to see about that, but there is, once again, hope for that. And then President Trump is also threatening Japan with more tariffs if they don't end up accepting American rice exports. So there's been a lot of tension right now with these tariffs, but then at the same time, President Trump also said that he's confident there's going to be a lot of deals to be made. And then simultaneously, he's saying that with the July 9th deadline coming up, President Trump is saying that he may not have to extend it because he's confident there's going to be some deals coming and everything's going to be okay. Last but not least, there's been some more talk about this July 4th deadline. Hopefully, we see some new developments, whether it passes or not by then. But if anything, for now, it's more bullish for the markets. So looking at SPY, I do see a big bearish divergence developing, which tells me that when this turns, we're going to see a big downside move. But there's no confirmation of us turning just yet. And the reason I say that is because look at the way SPY is moving. Like if we go back to Friday, we pushed, came down a bit, then we pushed higher, came down to make a higher low. So we're making higher lows. And we actually broke the high again at the end of the day, which goes to show we're seeing buyers defending. Good volume is still coming in. So that's another sign that this is continuing to break this range right here. And we're still technically on a very, very nice uptrend. Now, if you want to be a bear, and I'm going to be very, very unbiased when saying this, you have to look at the charts. It looks very bullish for now, but if you want to be a bear, you need to see us give some signs of a big rejection or signs of a pivot. We don't really have that quite yet confirmed. So if we end up seeing SPY fail at not only, I would say, like the 615 area, but basically if we start losing some of these key supports over here, such as this low right here, 613 to 610, if we start failing there, I do expect us to start dipping. Just to be unbiased when I say that, if we fail at the 20 EMA near 611, I do expect some downside, and we could be looking for a bigger move down. That's going to be your sign of a pivot, but there's no sign of us losing that 611 to 613 area quite yet. We haven't really lost that to be bearish. If you're bullish, however, you want to see us hold above 620. If that holds, we're looking for basically 622 plus or above to continue to go higher. You want to see 620 hold. Now, in my opinion, I do want to mention that SPY likes to kind of like sell off a little bit, then get bought back up. So tomorrow, we could sell off a bit. Then we're going to see if we get bought back up like this, back towards like 620. And then we just want to argue that it also depends on what the big guy, Jerome Powell, ends up happening. So Jerome Powell, he could launch stocks higher for like the 620s, or he could cause a much larger rug pull. The manufacturer numbers at the same time could cause the same thing. As of right now, we're favoring the low 620s. We're going to see if we pivot off this or not. So yes, we do look bullish. We're favoring upside. It does depend on what Jerome Powell says, what happens with the manufacturing numbers, but we still look bullish for now. So we're favoring an attempt to go to the 620s. Now, also be careful at 620. I do think it's going to be a big psychological level. So we're going to see if we get a rejection or pivot off this or not. So be mindful of the fact that even if we do push up there, I would be careful at this resistance. So I do think that we're going to go a bit higher. Looking at the current trend, we're favoring 620. Might dip a bit and start balancing with Jerome Powell or the manufacturing numbers. And then we're going to see if we pivot near 620. That's what I'm anticipating for tomorrow as the most likely possibility. So be prepared for anything at 10 a.m. once we get our data. But for now, we do look more bullish. The QQQ is also looking more bullish. Looking at the 4-hour, the daily, and many other time frames, we're looking quite good right now. Now, if you want to be a bear, you need to see us basically fail at 545. If that happens, it's not going to be the best of signs. Looking at the current trend, if SPY and the QQQ get rejected, they're going to likely do it together. So there's a lot of togetherness in this market. So if we lose 545, I would say if we lose 545, this low right over here, there's a very, very good chance that that's going to be a pivot and this is going to be dumping pretty hard, just in case 545 fails us. If we're bullish, I would like to see us hold above 552. If we could break this high, I do think we're going to be going up to like 555 as our next target. So keep those levels in mind. I think what's going to happen is we're going to continue to uptrend like this. So I think there's a good chance that we consolidate a little bit and then maybe try to go for 555. However, like I said before, we do have bearish divergences developing, and you want to be very careful at resistance. There's no guarantee we just keep going higher. We could get rejected off like 555 and kind of pivot. So I just want to warn you to be kind of careful the higher we go. But nonetheless, the chart is bullish for now. So just play the trend and know that for now we do favor upside. We'll see what Jerome Powell says. We'll see what happens with the manufacturing numbers, but nonetheless, the stocks still look more bullish. So keep that in mind. For the IWM Russell 2000, it's the same thing. Now, for bullish, I want to see us basically hold above 217. If that breaks, we're looking for 220. And for bearish, you want to see us fill at 214. If that fills us, we're looking for a move right back down towards 212. So when you go back to our 4-hour time frame, we're going to be watching to see if this continues to push. There is upside potential looking at this chart as we have an inverse head and shoulders on the IWM. So, of course, this is still looking quite bullish, but it depends, right? If we end up failing at our key supports, if we fail at like 211, 213, yes, we could be dipping. But If we end up breaking 218, we're looking for the 220s. My gut tells me that the IW might be dipping towards 214 to 212.6, maybe 214 at least. And then hopefully we get a bounce off that. And we continue to push for 220 or above. Depending on what Jerome Powell says or the manufacturing numbers, we still look more bullish. So keep that in mind. For ES, we're looking bullish. Now, if you want to be a bear on ES, we want to see this thing lose 6,200 tomorrow. If that fails us, I think 6,150 is next. As long as we're above 6,200, though, we're going to be continuing to favor upside for 6,280, if not 6,300 as our potential targets. So for now, I think we're doing a very, very good job. So we're making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. And for now, we're going to be favoring an attempt to go up towards that 6,280 to 6,300 area. That's going to be very, very key for the way at which we continue to move. On NQ, we're also breaking out right here. However, if NQ ends up losing, okay, this level right here near, I'm going to say that our 20 EMA is kind of trending upwards around 22,700. That's going to be a sign that this is going to pivot a lot lower in case we lose that. But we're not really favoring that. We're actually favoring higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and another higher high towards 23,000. So we still look more bullish, at least nonetheless. Bitcoin's holding up well. If we lose 106,000, we're looking for a dump back down to 105,000. If we break resistance at 108,700, we're looking for a big move back up. So I think that we're looking quite good. It's possible we end up testing 106,700. Then we could be looking for a bounce towards 109,000. So keep that in mind. Tesla, however, is not looking too good. So the problem with Tesla is that, a lot of this news about the robotaxi event was priced in. And I'm talking about the event. I'm not talking about the robotaxi in itself, because the robotaxi is very scalable for Tesla, and that could bring Tesla to the thousands per share if they start generating billions of dollars in revenue each quarter from it. So I'm saying the long term of the robotaxi is bullish. The short term from the event was kind of like a pump and dump move. And now we are resembling a left shoulder, a head, and now our right shoulder on Tesla, not looking too good. This might be looking for a dip lower, so it's not looking too good right now for bulls. The reason is also because of what we're seeing from different analysts. So a lot of analysts are downgrading Tesla, saying sell your Tesla, this and that. They also mentioned that they have weak expectations for deliveries because the Chinese sales are not looking too good for Tesla. They're actually showing signs of decline, and the European sales are doing the same thing, at least so far. That's as of right now, based off the data we currently have, based off insurance registrations. But I'm not too sure about the American sales. That could be like what helps to carry them. But given what we're seeing so far and given our current data, things are not looking too good for Tesla. There's going to be a risk of that, a big decrease in deliveries. Of course, if Tesla's deliveries are not too good, the media is going to rub it in everyone's faces. They're going to rub it in Tesla's face that Tesla's doing poorly. And there's going to be a risk of more downside in case that fails. So I am a little bit more apprehensive. I also want to note that what I do anticipate is this gap fill down here. There is a rejection here if Tesla cannot hold above 316. We're actually below it in the after hours. And there's a gap down here around 308, not to mention 299 being our 200 EMA. So our 4-hour red line, the 200 EMA was acting as a support. We're going to see if Tesla holds this for now, but whether it holds temporarily and then dumps, or if it just dumps now, it is looking more bearish, and this is favoring downside in my personal opinion. So unfortunately, Tesla's not looking that great, at least for the time being. I'm going to be kind of quick with the rest of these. I'm kind of using up a lot of time. Nvda, we're consolidating. We're hitting tough resistance near 160, and our support's at 155. If that fails us, we dip. My gut tells me we may consolidate, but as long as we don't lose 155, we could be pushing to the low 160s. It's still technically bullish unless 155 fails us. Appl's looking bullish. It's also pushing in the after hours. I think we got some big news right now. As long as we don't lose 202, we're favoring an attempt to push for 208. It looks a bit more bullish, helping the markets. Netflix is very bullish, looking for basically 1350 plus than 1375 as our targets. MSTR is looking bullish. So long as we don't end up losing 400, we're favoring an attempt to get back up towards this high over here. I'm going to be favoring like 410 plus. Celsius is very, very good looking. It's as long as it does not lose 44, we could dip to 45, then bounce and start pushing for 48. Supermicro is looking pretty good. It's kind of consolidating. If we end up losing 48, we're bearish. If we break 50, we're bullish. I think this is going to consolidate and try pushing above 50. Palantir looks pretty good. I want to see us break above 139 to start pushing higher. If we end up losing 134, we're going to be dipping a lot lower. It's kind of in the middle. Might retest 134 before it tries to bounce, but it's trying a bounce right now. It needs to get back above 139 to bounce higher. I do think it might be testing 139. We're going to see if it rejects or not. Rivian's kind of flat here. I do expect some consolidation here, not really much unless we end up losing 13.4, or if we break 14.2, we're just consolidating. For SoFi, we're bullish. As long as we don't lose 17.25, we're actually favoring an attempt for 18.8. AMD is looking pretty good. If we end up losing 140.8, we're looking for a dip back down to 136. If we hold this, we're looking for a big rebound back up to 144. For ARM, we have basically 159 as our main support. We're going to see if we bounce off this. I do think it's going to be dipping a bit more, and we'll have to see if 159 holds. PayPal's bullish. Nice inverse hand shoulder structure so long as we don't lose 72.9 to 73. Could dip a bit, then bounce, but I do think it's going to be filling this gap and trying to go higher for 75 as long as 72 does not fail us. Coinbase is not looking too good. We have to see if we can hold 346. If it doesn't hold, there's a head and shoulders. There's going to be a risk of a bigger dump in case we get a rejection. So basically, it's like this. We have a left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. But if this is a trap, you want to see 344 to 346 hold. If that holds, this could be a trap and we could actually go higher. If this is not a trap and we're about to dump, you want to see us lose support in the mid 340s, then expect this to dump towards 320. So you want to be careful with coin. Amazon's trying to push. We have to try to hold above 218. If not, we're looking for 215. So watch to see what happens. Can we hold 217 to bounce? If not, we could be dipping lower towards 215. Meta is not looking that great. It's kind of weak here. Might be dipping a little bit more to fill this gap. We have 725 as support. We're going to see if we bounce or not off of that. Might dip a little bit more. Google has supported 175. We got to hold this. If it loses that, we're going to be dumping lower. If it holds 175, we're looking for a push towards 180 again. And then Microsoft is looking okay. It could dip a little bit. It could be dipping all the way down towards 493. And we have to see if it bounces. Obviously, 500 is very tough. Break 500, we're bullish. Lose 493, we're bearish. So we're kind of in the middle shopping between those levels. We'll see which way it goes. And by the way, for like GameStop is looking bullish. If we hold above 24.4, I could be looking for 25 plus. Looks pretty good right now. DJT, as long as it's above 17.9, we're favoring 18.67. The VIX is in the middle. If it breaks 17.27, we're looking more bullish. If we lose 16, we're bearish. We're in the middle right now. So it could go either way until we hear what Jerome Powell has to say. The 10-year and the dollar are still looking bearish, which is bullish for stocks. So for now, the stock market is looking more bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows. But I do want to let you guys know that it's becoming riskier the higher we go as we're seeing tougher resistance. Right? SPY is just slowly stair-stepping its way up. So we're going to see what happens with the big guy, Jerome Powell, giving his speech for tomorrow. What does he have to say this time? And finally, what happens with these manufacturing numbers at 10 a.m.? Those are going to be very important alongside the JOLTS job openings and job quits reports. So lots of data tomorrow. Get ready for some high volatility once all of this comes out. Oh, also at 10 a.m., we have economic optimism coming out. So watch for all of that. We'll see what happens, guys. There might be a lot of volatility. Will this cause the market to pump and then dump, or do we end up going lower? We do favor upside for now. We could be going a bit higher, but then we're going to see what happens as SPY gets closer to the 620 area. Do we get a big rejection? Do we bounce? We'll see just to be safe. With that being said, I thank you for listening, guys. Please have an awesome rest of your guys' days. It's almost time for the 4th of July holidays, so just a couple of days left of the trading week, and get ready for that. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow before market open. I wish you all the best, and peace out.